What's up, travelers? It's Eliz
And Derek.
from Means to Travel, and today we decided that we would turn on the camera very quickly to give you guys a follow-up video about where we netted out with our decision process and the thinking that went behind it when it came to what we were going to do about our trip in the UK when the English lockdown got announced.
Yeah, and so for those who might not remember, a little bit of background. So last Thursday, November the 5th, England went into a state of lockdown nationwide, and it kind of left us with a little bit of a conundrum about what do we do, because at the time we were in the Lakes District in the north of England, and as we saw it, there were really three options for us. Option one was to stay in England and find some place to ride out the lockdown, kind of for that month-long duration. Number two was to head up to Scotland, which would not be necessarily under a lockdown, just because England was going into one. Each of the nations that make up the UK gets to, come up with their own way of dealing with the, pandemic. And Scotland, at that point in time, and today, is not in lockdown. And option three was to go home, for us to book airfare and kind of head back to the US prior to the lockdown taking effect.
So coming out of those three decisions, we first were looking at what it would be like to stay in England for the duration of the lockdown, and Derek's going to share a little bit of those pros and cons that we thought about.
Yeah, so I mean, staying in England would have been okay. We probably could have gotten quite a bit of work done and maybe spend some of that time editing a lot of the vlog backups that we have to put out for you guys. But at the end of the day, when we think about travel and we think about, and this applies to all three of the options really, it's that, we like to maintain our flexibility and our optionality around all of our decision-making processes. So as we thought about staying in England and being under a local lockdown then, nationwide, it would really limit what we could actually do for that whole month. And, a month is a solid chunk of our time in the UK. That's a third of our time here. So we thought that, staying in England pretty quickly kind of lost its appeal when we thought about, how it would hamper our ability to do things. At least, in the idea that we had other options available to us. So we decided to pursue something else. And quickly, as we were thinking about it as well on the idea of going home, it also kind of raised the idea that, at that point we've given up on our trip. We don't have the option to really come back after that, at least not until after the new year, once our nephew is born in the United States. And if we did that, we might be subject to lockdowns as well, and we would be subject to a 14-day quarantine again, which we can't really justify. So we knew that if we went home, that would be kind of calling it quits on England, at least until the end of, the pandemic. So that gave us our third option, which was going up to Scotland, which we pretty quickly realized and started leaning towards as our most likely option. And, it left us with the options to do more stuff because, as of the announcement of the English lockdown, Scotland was not really contemplating a lockdown. They did discuss it slightly around the idea that if the furlough system, which is the wage guarantee for the workers here, did not get extended beyond the English lockdown, that perhaps they would go into a preemptive lockdown so that they could take advantage of that.
And there were a few days where we were very closely following that
news.
Yes,
yes, because it would have been a little bit of a bummer to come to Scotland and then immediately have Scotland go into a lockdown as well. Fortunately, since then the news has come out that they've actually extended the furlough program until the end of March, which happily seems to have it where Scotland's not necessarily looking at a lockdown. So we actually have, in the coming weeks at least, a lot of freedom to go around, travel, and see some stuff. Now, obviously Scotland has its restrictions. There's that whole central belt area around Glasgow, Edinburgh, and other locations like that that are kind of off limits to travelers right now. But for us, at least, we were very excited to get up to the Highlands. I've been talking about this for a while now, but the idea of doing the North Coast 500 and making it up to John O'Groats so that we can, have done the end-to-end road trip where we go from Land's End in Cornwall all the way up to John O'Groats in the north coast of Scotland is something that's really appealing to us, at least to me. And so that's something that, we can still do and we can still pursue. So we are now in Scotland, which is right there.
Yep, yeah, so behind us You actually probably can't see the lock behind us, but we are sitting here in Fort William, Scotland, and we were able to get here pretty easy by car. However, that comes with a little bit of a caveat because we certainly ran into car troubles on our way here.
Yeah, and anybody who does a lot of driving on a trip is going to run into a snafu or two. We happened to run into one where in our first day in Scotland, so I guess a little bit of background, we went from the Lake District, Ambleside, up to the border region, so we stayed the night up in Moffat, and
Yeah. And we left that Airbnb in Ambleside in the Lake District early,
yep,
knowing that that was going to be the trade-off for being able to get to Scotland in time for that lockdown.
yeah, so we left on Wednesday and we headed up to Moffat, Scotland, and for all intents and purposes, I won't get into all the details, but our car broke down at the hotel. We couldn't have driven it to another car rental location. We were basically stranded, and luckily, after numerous phone calls to different people like roadside assistance and the numerous calls, lots of calls. We talked to Citroën, the maker of our rental car. We talked to a lot of different people. It was kind of odd, but we were able to finally get it where, the following morning we had a tow truck driver come pick us up from the guest house that we were staying at, which was really nice, actually. I really liked that place. What was it called? Hartfell House in Moffat. If you're ever there, check it out. It's pretty nice. But yeah, so we were able to get a tow truck, which is so hard to say, come pick us up that next morning, which was nice because we still got to go grab a quick dinner and everything. It didn't take over our lives for that 24-hour period, but it did make it a little bit stressful. He came, he picked us up, took the car with us up to the nearest big car rental place that we could go to that had automatics for us, and trade out Olaf, dirty Olaf, with a
which Olaf was the name that I named our big white SUV.
Yes. So when we
with
went
a new car, and I named that one because the color of it is red. I named it Clifford, the big red car.
Cliff for sure.
Cliff for short.
So so we now have a shiny new red SUV, which is really nice. It's the same car we've had, which is actually a bonus because I'm used to driving it at this point on the crazy roads of the UK, which is very nice, especially given that we're going to be going up to the NC 500 after our time here in Fort William, and so things happen, guys, right? So you just need to be able to roll with the punches, and luckily it happened after we got to Scotland and not on our way up here, which could have really thrown a wrench into our plans.
Yeah, so we're extremely excited to be here right now. I'm very grateful that we were able to figure out the means of making that a reality.
Yeah.
A lot of you gave us feedback about going back home, that we certainly were weighing all of our options, but for those of you who've been following the channel for a little while, you may have already understood a little bit more of our background as to why that would be a little bit more difficult.
It's not as straightforward for
us as it might be for many other folks from the U.S.
Just real quick, two things really that made going home even less appealing to us, other than the fact that it kind of made the UK would have made it out of our reach for the next year, was one, we do have kind of no house right now. We put our house up for rent a few months ago, so it's not like we have a house to go home to right this moment. And that kind of feeds into the second thing, which means that we'd likely be staying with family for a little bit, and likely with my family, and some members of my family do have health issues and health concerns, which means that we would have severely curtailed kind of like what we were doing in the United States. That way we could spend the holidays with my family as well as be there for the birth of our nephew. So
and people in Derek's family, there's certain ones that it would have made it very difficult for us to be doing the types of adventures that we're doing here in the UK if we were staying with them.
Yep. So, at the end of the day, we decided that it was while we are going to be going back for the holidays, and we will be back, in early December, and we can't wait. I'm actually really excited to get back to them and see them and everything. But we decided we weren't quite ready for that, so we are sticking it out here, and we'll be back in the beginning of December.
Yeah. So with all of that said, we wanted to thank all of you guys for
you.
your incredible support as we've made our decision very slowly and with a lot of thought behind it over the past week since we put out our last video. And we're really grateful for this community of fellow travelers who really are trying to travel along with us and enjoy the trip that we have decided to embark on. So if you liked this video, please definitely give it a thumbs up below. And also, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, or you're new to the channel through this video, please consider subscribing by pressing that red subscribe button below too, so you don't miss any of our future UK travel videos to come.
Scotland travel specifically.
Yeah. And also just future travel videos to come on this channel. So thanks everybody for watching. Cheers. Happy travels. Bye.
Hey travelers, don't forget to subscribe. And let's hang out more. Here are some links to other helpful travel videos on my channel, and press that notification bell so you don't miss any new and awesome travel videos to come.